Well, my name's Marie, and I live in Sacramento, California. I'm a mom. I have wonderful adult children, and their lives fulfill me and keep me on the move. I myself have been in healthcare communications for decades, so it was very interesting after all those years to then be the patient after telling so many patient stories for so long. And so I knew that I knew a lot about symptoms for just anything that wasn't okay. And so I started getting my own symptoms. I started having spotting, bleeding, spotting, which is not okay for a woman of my age. So I was like, oh well, I know that's not a good thing. So I reached out to my primary care physician. So that was in 2020. She did a endometrial biopsy. Oh no, first she did an ultrasound and didn't find anything specific at that time. And then into January 21, she did a endometrial biopsy and still didn't find anything. And I was told that if I continue to have those symptoms, the spotting, that would be normal because of the biopsy I had had. And then I got super busy. In hindsight, I look back and I see that I had other symptoms that are symptoms of the cancer I was ultimately diagnosed with, but they're not obvious symptoms. So fast forward to fall 2021, and I went on this all is relevant. I went on a river rafting trip. I went down the Colorado River. We did a 9-day trip down the Colorado River. So we're a mile down in the canyon for 9 days, no reception. And the river's muddy. It wasn't so good for the rest of us, but basically we were, bathing, washing our hair in muddy water. And because there was a heat warning down there, it was 115 degrees. We spent a lot of time in the water. Like you just wanted to be wet all the time. So fast forward, I get back from that trip and I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty worn out. And I just assumed that was from being, every night you set up camp and every morning you pack it up and head back down the river. So I assumed I was just tired from sleeping on the sand for 9 days. But then I was still tired. So I kind of said to my son, I'm like, if I'm still tired next weekend, I'm going to go see a doctor because I'm just really tired. And then meanwhile, my black lab puppy, he was a puppy at the time, but he kept burrowing his nose in my belly. And I'm like, what is he doing? And I hadn't been showering a lot. It's the pandemic, and I didn't feel well. So I finally just like lift up my shirt. I'm like, do I have food on me or something? And this is probably TMI, but I discovered that my belly button was oozing, which is pretty gross. So I immediately Googled it, right? Dr. Google. And I'm like, oh, well, I better see a doctor. I was super fortunate. So this is now the end of September 21. So I get in to see a doctor, and it's during the pandemic. So believe it or not, I found an opening and told the doctor that I'd been on the river. So I thought maybe I had an infection. So the doctor prescribed me an antibiotic, but said, if nothing's changed in 48 hours, please come back. So nothing changes in 48 hours. And then I find a swollen, what feels like a swollen gland in my groin, coincidentally. So I get an appointment, a follow-up appointment for the following Tuesday. So now we're getting to the first week of October. That Monday, this all comes together. That Monday I was out walking my dog, out walking my dog, and I was like, I just don't feel good. I really shouldn't be out walking him because he's a a lively, strong puppy. And before I know it, I hit the ground, and my wrist hurts, my lungs hurt. I mean, I just hurt really bad. I'm in a lot of pain. So I see the doctor, and so in addition, so since nothing's changed, she orders an ultrasound of my pelvic and stomach area. And because I had so much pain in my chest, she goes ahead and orders a x-ray of my chest also. So I get in right away to do that. And that's a Tuesday. So then on a Thursday, the classic cliche, I'm driving along. I get a doctor call from the doctor, and she's asked if I'm close to home or if I can pull over. So I pull over, and she says, well, I hate to tell you this on the phone, but you have metastatic cancer. And it's in your ovaries, it's in your lungs, it's in your omentum, which is your extra stomach. And I'm in so much pain. All I say is, yeah, but did I break my chest or something? And she's like, no, we don't see any breaks in your chest or anything. And all I could care about, if this is terrible, was just the pain I was in. So fast forward. So that's the first week of October. She gets me in right away to see this wonderful gynecological oncologic surgeon at my hospital system. And so I go see her, and she's like, well, everybody likes to assume that things are ovarian right away, but we need to find out the origin of the cancer first, because it affects how we treat you. But I'm also concerned about all the falls you've taken. So I'd like you to, and the fact that your cancer's metastasized, I'd like you to do a skeletal scan and a brain scan and make sure you don't have mets in your brain and your bones. So I go do that. And so the good news is no mets in my brain, no mets in my bones. But the text says to my doctor, but does she know that she has 4 fractured ribs on her left side, 6 fractured ribs on her right side, and a fractured sternum? Yeah. So for a couple weeks, finally I got some stronger meds, and I walked around and laid around with a pillow for a couple weeks and healed. So I had time to lay there and start processing the fact that I had this cancer diagnosis. And then I still had to wait 3 weeks because it was the pandemic. It took me that long to get in to do a biopsy to confirm the origin of the cancer. And so the biopsy was the end of October. So by the end of the last week of October, so by the end of October, it was confirmed that it was a metastatic ovarian cancer, stage 4B, which is pretty much the worst diagnosis that you can get. So I have the advantage that for decades, I've been writing stories about and meeting cancer patients. I knew a lot about healthcare and the healthcare system, and I knew a lot about the drugs that are out there for cancer and how we treated cancer. I also knew that when you read those prognosis factors on websites, that they're just based on some data. Everybody's cancer journey is different. So from a intellectual perspective, I was like, okay, I can do this, right? I've watched all these other amazing people and told their stories. I can do this. So intellectually, and I knew there were great drugs out there and great doctors. So intellectually, I was like, okay, I'm going to get through this. Emotionally, I wouldn't let myself go there too often, but I did, have some crying sessions, mostly because I'm not ready to leave my adult children, and it just broke my heart to think that. So, that was, look, I still tear up. I cannot talk about that part without tearing up. That was the emotional part, was the fact that I wouldn't be able to see my kids continue to become the beautiful people that they are. So that was hard. So again, this wonderful doctor, this oncologist that I got in to see, she really expedited everything, helped me expedite everything. She just wanted me to get into the chair as soon as possible. So they fast forwarded my training. You actually do a chemo training. So I got my own personal chemo training. So I was in the chair by November 6th, which was 3 infusions every 3 weeks of carboplatin and paclitaxel, which is standard of care. But for these drugs to work well, you have to have the right 360 care. You have to be able to eat right and sleep and be safe and rest and a lot of other things so that you can, survive the treatment. So the week you get your infusion, you're given steroids, antihistamine, anti-nausea, all kinds of prophylactic care, and then you stay on those meds that first week. until you get through kind of the worst part of the chemo. Um, so, so I always knew that chemo week would be like a really bad week. Well, the first few days would be great. You were high on the steroids, but so I couldn't sleep, people clean their houses, do projects, and but then you crash and burn. So then your second week is really hard. And then your third week, you're feeling good. And then you start all over again. But it was just really critical to eat right, to follow the regimen that they set forward. Sleep, lots of sleep, which was really weird for me because I was never a napper. I've never been the kind of person that can lay down and sleep. But this fatigue is not the same as being tired. It's just a very physical type of tiredness that you have no choice. Like you can just feel the energy just drain out of your body from your head to your toes, and you have to lie down. So I did a lot of resting and sleeping, which was not very normal for me. And I think I watched more TV during that time than I watched in my lifetime. Then my major surgery, within a few weeks of that third infusion, and then 3 more infusions, which took me into April of the next year. I had my big surgery in January. I ended up getting my surgery at the cancer center because 2 things happened. One is this wonderful oncologist left, and I was so sad. But I had also been doing a lot of research and found out that Dr. Brooks at the cancer center was renowned in terms of ovarian cancer. So instead of trying to find a surgeon within the hospital system I was at, I chose to have my surgery at the cancer center. The surgery was good news. By the way, it was a high serous ovarian cancer, which means it responds really well to chemo. So when they did the surgery, what's usually like a 7-8 hour surgery, it was only 3 hours. It had not metastasized to my other organs. Um, and Yeah, and it had worked so well that they weren't even able to get enough of my tumor to type the tumor in pathology. And then I went on. Since I had such a good response, I did say, I go, oh, does that mean I don't have to do 3 more infusions? And then no, it doesn't work that way. So, but the truth of the matter is the infusions get harder, and because the side effects get harder. So my 5th infusion was delayed by a week because my white blood cell count had dropped too much. And I had the symptoms that you hear about. I lost all my hair, but believe it or not, I was bald only in 2022. I was completely bald. I did eventually just shave my head, so I didn't have to deal. I think that's probably one of the most hardest visual dramatic parts of chemo care is the losing the hair. It's just it was really tough. Yeah, and so now I did all that. And oh, by the way, I didn't mention, but in the middle of that, I did find out that I am BRCA2 positive. So what they do is they put off the genetic testing until you're kind of through care. I'm like, no. I want to know now. And I was quite angry about that because I was like, this is crazy that I had to wait till I'm in my early 60s. I have been accessing care to find that out I'm BRCA2 positive, because, we could have figured out a long time ago, if I was BRCA2 positive, that it was likely an ovarian cancer, because BRCA2 is an indicator for ovarian, melanoma, prostate, colon, breast, and they think pancreatic. So if we would have known that, we could have put 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 and gotten to 4. Anyhow, so today I'm on an oral chemo. It's a PARP inhibitor, and it targets the BRCA2 mutation. And I'm on it for 2 years, so I've got about 10 months left, maybe 9 months. And it has side effects, but I've gotten used to most of the side effects. I mean, there's things I have to do every day, and I have to take care of myself, which is really hard. you know, can't do a lot of things that I used to do. But now the good news is when I'm finished with my 2 years, they actually take you off because they believe that the side effects start to outweigh the benefits if you're on it too long. And but they believe that it keeps working. So for now, they actually believe with ovarian cancer that they can talk about remission, which they weren't able to do before. But anyhow, so that's my next big milestone is June 24, and it will be really exciting to not be on any medication anymore. Yeah, it's been a long time. So we don't do a lot of scanning. We did scanning in the beginning, but we don't scan. The first year you scan, oh gosh, now I'm forgetting. I think you scan quarterly, and then we went down, and then we stopped. But what I do is every quarterly I do my lab test, and there's a test called a CA-125, which is a measurement. It's not a predictor, but it's a measurement if you have ovarian cancer. I think it measures other cancers too. And so your CA-125 and your blood count, your CA-125 is to tell you if the cancer is returning. When I was diagnosed, my CA-125 was 477, and it's supposed to be under 35. And so today it stays under 35. It's quite low. But since it was a predictor for me, they use that. So we keep an eye on that quarterly. Well, first and foremost, you have to be your own advocate. And I know people talk about that all the time, but you really need to get engaged in your healthcare. And it's unfortunate if you haven't done that already, and now you're facing this diagnosis, and now you need to, but this is the time you need to. And you also need to accept help from the people around you. And I really recommend when you're seeing your doctors, always bring somebody with you, or if it's on the phone, have somebody there, because it's so much to take in. And it's just really helpful if somebody else is taking notes. And so I never went to an appointment without somebody else there. And then we would compare notes, and then I would forget something. And I really think you should know what you're being treated with, what your options are, what are the side effects, what are the long-term impacts. And it's okay to ask all those questions. So I would just say, take the time, get engaged. This is life and death stuff. So you want to get engaged, and you want to know what's going on so that you can navigate through to the other side. But I do think that being hopeful, don't let people tell you all those negative stories. Don't read the general data about diagnosis and prognosis, because it's general data. And write your own story and try to stay positive. Let your friends and family help you. People want to help you, and you need to let them, and they will kind of be part of your hope, because everybody really is rooting for you. And I do believe that depending on your cancer, the cancer doctors know a lot, and they know how to treat you, and they're going to do their best to help you. And so that, combined with just hope and love, and can sustain you, and that there is an end. There is an end. So it's you'll hear stories. Lots of people have second, third cancers, which is just hard, but you're going to get through this first one. So just every day, look around you and be thankful for something that day.